Well, good morning. Continuing on in chapter 2 today of the book of Daniel. And the title is The Forgotten Dream. King Nebuchadnezzar forgets his dream. Now, from the beginning of chapter 2 until the end of chapter 7, it is confirmed by many scholars that this section of the book of Daniel was originally written in the Chaldean language. And as such, there's sometimes words are translated into English, which you need to go back and look at the original meanings. First verse. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed several dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans, all who worshipped other gods, for to show the king his dreams. So they all came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I dreamed a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. And the sneaky Chaldeans spoke to the king in Syriac, another language, and said, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show you the interpretation. They said it in another language so the other people wouldn't understand what they were saying. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If you will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, you shall be cut into pieces, and your houses shall be made up as dunghills. But if you show the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honour. Therefore, show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show you the interpretation thereof. And the king answered and said, I know of certain that you would gain in time, because you see the thing is gone from me. Now we have a promise. But if you will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall show you the interpretation thereof. One night, in the second year of the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a terrifying nightmare, and he awoke sweating and trembling with fear. To make matters even worse, he could not remember what the dream was all about. But somehow, deep in his spirit, he knew that it was important. He immediately called in all of his magicians, incantationists, sorcerers, and astrologers, and demanded that to tell him what he dreamed and the interpretation thereof. Remember, all of these worship other gods, and God Almighty is setting a trap for them, but is going to reveal himself through Daniel to the king. As they all stood before him, the king declared, I had a terrible nightmare, and I can't remember what it's all about, but I feel in my spirit that something terrible and or catastrophic is going to happen to me. Then the astrologers, speaking in Aramaic, so that others would not know what they were saying, said to the king, Sir, tell us the dream, and then we will tell you what it means. But the king replied, I tell you, the dream is gone. I can't remember it. But if you don't tell me the dream and what it means, I will have you drawn and quartered, torn limb from limb, and your houses destroyed and made into heaps of rubble. But I will give high honours and many gifts to the person who can tell me what the dream was and what the interpretation of this dream means. So just don't stand there. Begin. The astrologers again said to him, How can we tell you what the dream means unless you tell us what it was? The king replied, I can see your trick. You are trying to stall for time until the tragedy happens to me that the dream prophesies. But if you can't tell me the dream, how do you expect me to believe your interpretation thereof? Verse 10. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that ask such a thing of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requires, and there is none other than that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. He gets upset easily, Nebuchadnezzar, but we'll see that as we go along. Appears he had a furious temper. And a decree went forth that all of the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Remember, we have Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, those four. The Chaldeans challenged the king by saying, "There is no man alive who can tell other people what they have dreamed, and there isn't a king in all of the world that would ask such a thing of his subjects. This is an impossible thing that the king requires us to reveal to him. No one except the gods can tell you your dream, and they are not here to help us. Even though they have a whole treasury to their God, they are admitting before the king that this God cannot help them or him." Upon hearing this, the king was furious and sent out orders to execute all of the wise men of Babylon. Daniel and his 3 friends were rounded up with the other not so wise men, to be killed. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arush, the captain of the king's guard, which had gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arush, the king's captain, "Why is the decree so hasty from the king?" Then Arush made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that give him time, and he would show him the dream and the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of God, of the God of heaven, concerning the secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. But when Arush, the captain of the king's guard and the king's guard, and the chief executioner came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with great wisdom and diplomacy by asking, "Why is the king so angry? What is the matter?" Then Arush, "Tell him what has happened." Then Daniel asked to see the king. "Give me a little time and I will tell you the dream that you had, and also I will give you its meaning." Then he went home and told his 3 companions, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They asked the God of heaven to show him his mercy on them by telling them the secret dream, so that they would not die with the others. And so we look at the dream and the dream revealed, and then the interpretation thereof. Then was the secret revealed to Daniel in the night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his." And by the way, and his alone. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and he sets up kings. He gives wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells in him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou the God of my fathers, who have given me wisdom and might, have made known unto me what we desired of thee, for thou hast not made known unto us the king's matter. For thou hast not made known unto us the king's matter. And that very night that they prayed. The God Almighty, the God of heaven, in the night vision told Daniel what the king had dreamt. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven, saying, "Blessed be the name of the Lord our God, forever and ever. For he alone has all wisdom and all power. World events are under his control." Hello, Islam. Hello, Buddha. Hello, all you other gods. I'll read that one again. World events are under his control. He removed kings and sets others upon their thrones. He gives wise men their wisdom and scholars their intelligence. He reveals those profound mysteries that are way beyond man's understanding. He knows all hidden things, for he is light, and darkness is no obstacle for him. I thank and praise you, O God of my fathers, for you have given me wisdom and glowing health, and now even this vision of the king's dream, and also the understanding of what it means. God always hears our prayers, and we have to be open to hear his answers in whatever way he wants to reveal them to us. Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, the chief executor of the king, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, "Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation." Then Arioch brought Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, "I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation." Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to King Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the vision of thy head upon the bed are these." So first of all, he's going to tell him what dream he had. "As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what shall come to pass hereafter," in the future. "And he that reveals secrets make known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have, more than any living, but for their sakes that shall be made known the interpretation unto the king, that thou might know the thoughts of thy heart." The king questioned Daniel, "Is it true? Can you tell me what my dream was and what it really means?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, astrologer, magician, or wizard can tell the king such things. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has told you in your dream what will happen in the future. This was your dream. You dreamed of coming events. He who reveals secrets was speaking to you. But remember, it's not because I am wiser than any other living person that I know the secret of this dream, for God showed it to me for your benefit. Thou, O king, saw and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou also saw a stone was cut out from without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them into pieces. Then was the iron and the clay, the brass and the silver and the gold, broken to pieces together, and made like the chaff on a summer threshing floor. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. O king, you saw a huge and powerful statue of a man, shining brilliantly, but frightening and terrible. The head of the statue was made of purest gold. Its chest and arms were of silver. Its belly and thighs of brass. Its legs of iron. Its feet is a mixture of iron and clay. But as you watched, a rock was cut from the mountainside with no hands. By supernatural means, it came hurtling towards the statue and crushed the feet of iron and clay, smashing them into pieces. Then the whole statue collapsed into a giant heap of iron, clay, brass, silver, and gold. Its pieces were crushed as small as chaff, and the wind blew them all away. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. This is the dream that you saw, and we will now tell you the interpretation before the king. Thou art, O king, art the King of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wherever soever the children dwell, the peace of the fields and the fowls of the heavens have he given into thine hands, and has made thee ruler over them all. You are the head of gold, and after thee shall rise up another kingdom, inferior to thee, silver, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all of the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it parts of strength of iron, for as much as thou saw the iron mixed with the miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be part strong and part broken. And where you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle together with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all of these other kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God of heaven has made known unto the king what will come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. That was the dream that you saw, and now for the interpretation and meaning of that dream which God has made known unto you. Your gracious majesty, you are a king who reigns over many kings, for the God of heaven has given you your kingdom, your power, your strength, and your glory. You rule the farthest of provinces, and even animals and birds are under your control, as God has decreed. Therefore, you are that head of gold. But after you, your kingdom has come to an end. Another world power, the Medo-Persian Empire, will rise up and take your place. This empire will be inferior to yours, and after that kingdom has fallen, yet a third great army and empire, the Greek Empire, founded by Alexander the Great, represented by the bronze belly of the statue, will rise to rule the whole world. Following after it, the fourth kingdom, the Roman Empire, which shall be as strong as iron, smashing, bruising, and conquering. The feet and the toes that you saw, part made of iron and another part of clay, shows that later on this fourth kingdom shall be divided. Some parts of it will be as strong as iron, and other parts shall be as weak as clay. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriages of their rulers. And like happened with King Solomon, who did this, it will not succeed, for iron and clay do not mix. During the reign of these kings, the God of heaven will set up his kingdom, a kingdom that will never be destroyed, No one will ever conquer it. It shall shatter all of these kingdoms into nothingness, but it alone shall stand forever indestructible. That is the meaning of the rock cut out of the mountain without hands. That rock that crushed to powder all of the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. This, the great God of heaven has showed will happen in the future, and this interpretation of your dream is as sure and certain as my description of it. Note, if you did not believe in prophecy before reading this book, then consider these historical facts. This prophecy was given in 604 BC and accurately foretold the history of the world for the next 2,000 years. This prophecy was given in the second year of the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned from 606 BC until 538 BC. He was a head of gold. As predicted, a new kingdom would rise up, the Persian Empire, from 538 BC until 331 BC, and that was the silver of the breastplate. This was followed by the Greek kingdom with Alexander the Great from 331 BC until 63 BC. That was the brass. But the next kingdom, the Roman kingdom, did not rise up until 27 BC. So it was a period of about 35 years where there was no empire at all, and continued until 473 AD, when it was divided into two kingdoms, which was the iron and the clay. It was during this time of the Roman Empire that Jesus Christ was born, ministered, was crucified, and rose up again to ascend into heaven and establish his kingdom on this earth in the hearts and minds of all his believers, the kingdom which shall never be destroyed. The second part of the kingdom, after it was divided, reigned from 667 AD until 453 AD, 1453, the divided kingdom. Since that time, we have not had any empire that has ruled the whole world, even though we have had many years and many wars and attempts by different ideologies to make it so. The book of Revelations confirms what is still to happen in the future, that is still before us, and therefore everyone should be aware of what is to happen in our not too distant future. Verse 43. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odours unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is, that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing that thou could reveal his secret to me. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of all the governors over all of the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested the king that he set up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat at the gates of the king. After hearing this prophetic interpretation of future events from Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar fell to the ground before Daniel and worshipped him, and commanded that his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense before him. Then the king said before all of the people, Truly, O Daniel, your God is the God of gods, the ruler of kings, the revealer of mysteries, because he told you this secret dream that I had, and its interpretation. Then at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as Daniel's assistants to be in charge of all of the affairs of the province of Daniel. Daniel served as the king's magistrate in the king's court, and that reference in the scripture says he sat at the gates. And that's where the business, if you know in the book of Esther, that is where the business took place. That's where people would come to air their grievances, and he was appointed the chief magistrate of the king's court. We'll finish there and look at tomorrow. Nebuchadnezzar makes an image of gold.